This Fed Gov Today program is sponsored by Booz Allen. On this edition of Fed Gov Today with Francis Rose, tracking IT impact across the federal government. A primer to lay out your next steps in generative AI and the AI use case campaign at the VA. Welcome to Fed Gov Today with Francis Rose. Federal agencies are working toward deadlines the Office of Management and Budget has laid out on zero trust, artificial intelligence, and customer experience. OMB's tracking the progress agencies are making and the impact that progress is having. Clare Martorana is the Chief Information Officer of the United States. Clare, welcome. It's great to see you. An impact report that you can find a link to on the show page today at fedgovtoday.com. You're highlighting 4 key priorities. How did you decide on those 4 priorities to track all across the federal government?
Well, thanks for having me today, Francis. It's great to be with you. It was simple. The Biden-Harris administration started during a cybersecurity SolarWinds incident that really coalesced all of us around our need to make our federal systems more resilient. So cybersecurity, top of mind, always was, will continue to be into the next administration. We also focused on basic things, IT modernization, using data as a strategic asset, digital experience. I think the strapline that we've used is the American people deserve a simple, seamless, and secure experience when they interact with the government. That's not what they get. Often there are, we put burden on the public by having to interact with systems and tools that don't work as efficiently as we know they can. So what we have done is really tried to focus on those core IT operations that they should expect are efficient and effective. And then we also got to sit in the chair, I got to sit in the chair during the time of AI, which was an incredible evolution, as you've heard. It's probably one of the most transformative technologies in our lifetime. And so we have spent the last several years also focusing on AI. So that portfolio was very easy to identify, and it was easy for us to structure our work around.
A lot of that work, too, is aligned to the President's management agenda. Lauren DeYoung-Schulman's been on the program a number of times talking about the work, especially around customer experience that's happening all across the government. What are the markers that you've used in this progress report, in this impact report, to determine where you've seen impact and where there's still more work to be done?
We've done very basic things in our customer experience portfolio. The way that I like to think about it is the people that are trying to get benefits or services from any federal agency, they try to interact with the agency first. Then if they can't interact effectively, they call their congressperson. And the constituent experience becomes a focal point. And then those raise up to GAO and organizations like OMB for us to bureaucracy bust the burden that is put on that person trying to advocate for their own services or benefit. And so we've just worked really in a coordinated manner across government, both through the presidential management agenda, through all of the different tools and levers that we have to be able to drive efficient, effective government. And we're just on the beginning of the journey. The way I like to think of it is we really are in a period of modernization before we can get to transformation. We have foundational issues, mainframes, old code that can't be patched, lots of different burdens in government that we have an incredible opportunity to continue to build upon and resolve so that we can deliver those services to the public.
That concept of modernization versus transformation is one that your predecessor, Suzette Kent, addressed on this program a number of times. What do you think that means just rhetorically as far as the way that the agencies are thinking about what their next steps should be?
Yeah, you have to get out of the tech debt that we have, right? We are 25 years into the 21st century, and we have a lot of IT that was designed in the 20th century. And it's burdensome. It's burdensome for the workforce. It's burdensome for the customers that we're trying to serve. So making sure doing the really foundational, hard just challenging work of IT and the federal government is the place you have to start. You can't just move all of your business processes to the cloud without reimagining in the 21st century how technology and computers work. So we are at a very foundational moment, but we also do have real silos of excellence where we are doing extraordinary work with a terrific workforce that is really helping drive change. But those are the exception, not the rule. And what we're trying to focus on is making sure that we can drive technology innovation by cleaning up a lot of that legacy IT and allowing our tax dollars to go to drive the greatest impact.
The 4 areas that I referenced at the beginning of our conversation: bolstering cybersecurity, modernizing technology and leveraging data, advancing the use of emerging technologies like AI, and improving digital service delivery. Where are some areas or some examples that you think you made tremendous impact, or that individual agencies made big impact?
Something really basic in the digital experience portfolio, we didn't have an inventory of all of our websites. We have a lot of websites.
Yes.
We don't need a lot of websites, right? There are really basic things that we can do as a community. The great thing about my office in the role of the Federal Chief Information Officer, it's a statutory role. So I have the authority to look across all federal agencies and do things like count the number of websites that they have in order to figure out how are we spending our money, is it the most efficient, is it meeting the need of the consumer and the American public that's trying to get information from the government. And in most cases the answer was no, that we have this sprawling ecosystem of websites that can be cleaned up in order to simplify the way that we're delivering content and services to the American public. In
this impact report, a lot of discussion about partnerships and the organizations that you have partnered with in OFCIO across government, the Executive Office of the President, the rest of OMB, the digital service, and so on. What has been, do you think, the result that you've seen as far as building those partnerships, and who have your most important, maybe personal as well as professional partnerships been in your time as federal CIO?
Yeah, I would say the federal CIO community as a starting point. It's an incredibly collaborative group of people. We work together on a daily basis. I call CIOs when I have questions about things. When I sat in the CIO chair, I often received the information from the Office of the Federal CIO, so wanting to make sure that we have that group. Also, our federal CISOs have been an absolute treasure, being able to work together with them on all of the cybersecurity, Executive Order 14028, and all the work that we're doing there. I would say the opportunity space for us is looking at the assets that we currently have in government, like the U.S. Digital Service Team, folks at TTS, different parts of government, parts of CISA that are actually doing on-the-ground deployment at agencies so that we are able to understand what we're doing, use best practices, simplify bureaucracy bust, and try and move the entire IT community forward.
We have about a minute left, and you said before we went on the air that you wanted to kind of break the fourth wall, I think the term is. I'm not such a hardcore TV guy to know all the lingo, but you wanted to speak directly to someone or some people in the audience. Why don't you go ahead and do that, Claire?
I'm incredibly excited about what the incoming administration is talking about related to IT modernization, the foundational work that we have to do. So Elon, Vivek, call me. We are all happy to help continue this journey. I benefited from everybody from Vivek, Steve Van Rokel, Tony Scott, Suzette Kent. It's a baton pass, it's a relay race. All of us have to be part of this solution. So please feel free to reach out to us. I benefited from all of the prior federal CIOs helping me be able to drive change in this seat. And I would just say happy to help. And I know that the next administration is going to carry on this work and do incredible work for the federal government to deliver seamless, simple, and secure experience for the American public.
Clare Martorana, thanks for joining me. Congratulations on your service and best wishes after January 20th.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it, Francis.
You can read more about the Impact Report on today's show page at fedgovtoday.com. Up next, a primer to lay out your next steps in generative AI. Fed Gov Today with Francis Rose continues in a moment.
And so if you look at a network detect and respond, which a lot of people have deployed IDS for, you just need to go much further than that. You need the AI capability, you need the advanced, sophisticated detections, and then you need to be able to highlight that to the analysts in a way that they can take actions before those incidents becomes really harmful.
Welcome back. The AI progress that Clare Martorana discussed is happening across government, but some agencies are further along than others. Catherine Ordun is Vice President for AI at Booz Allen. Catherine, welcome. Thanks for joining me today. What are some of the basic steps that you're seeing agencies either taking or maybe missing on their journeys to success with artificial intelligence?
Well, thanks first for having me here today, Francis. I think that finally with AI, we're at a point where it's a people mission, complex orchestration, where we're actually starting to have organizations involve people at all facets of AI. You know, this is really not just using technology, math, computer science, or software engineering, but some of the progress that we've seen is really about involving teams at all levels. So this means not only the project managers, but also mission experts. This is something that I think has been a real important proof of pudding, which is AI is really a tool to help us solve different kinds of problems. So the same type of AI that we're seeing for tackling healthcare, or defense, or intelligence, these have to be kind of approached in a different way. So I think we're finally seeing some basics when it comes to team involvement and making AI delivery, AI, even R&D, a team sport.
What do you advise agencies to do to continue to drive that kind of momentum, Catherine?
Well, I would advise looking at our modern AI primer. This is something that Booz Allen recently released. We're very proud of it. I like to say that it will make people dangerous in terms of giving a real meat on the bones overview of AI. So I definitely recommend folks to take a look at that because it's going to give a real soup to nuts overview to demystify AI so that it kind of takes away some of the mystery of how to actually use it in practice. Another element would be to really empower different elements of the team to kind of upskill and get up to speed with different approaches to AI. Sometimes that looks a little bit scary because we're delving into territories like computer science or math, but really there are so many edges that we have to look at the complete picture of AI. There's a piece in it for everyone, actually.
How much of the scariness is due to kind of the hype that we've seen, not just in the government space, but in general about artificial intelligence and what it could or might not be able to do?
Absolutely. Well, obviously we all know generative AI, and I think that provided a lot of great opportunity in the past several years. It really brought it to this populist forefront where, you know, I can talk to my mom about AI, and it provides some advantages and disadvantages. I think this is really just about education and providing more knowledge to everyone in the government space, the commercial, and just everyone in public. The first element is that what is here now is actually building on top of things that are old. So everything that is old is now new. That's one thing to kind of make it less scary. The second part is that once we get some education and understanding, it's not a mystical oracle. It's not a sorcerer, right? There's a lot of mechanisms and basic math that really underlies it. But to really understand and not be scared of it is to ask the question, what do you want for AI to solve for you? Because again, this is not about writing calculus on a blackboard. This is about trying to dissect how can we make it work for our problem and for our community.
What are the skills that you would advise agencies to work the hardest and the soonest on building up in their workforces? Not just their technical workforces either, their IT folks, but their mission delivery people to use AI effectively.
Definitely AI literacy. I think that would be the first, which is to really have folks understand how AI could be used in their existing workflows. I think there's a misconception that we have to tear apart and re-Frankenstein old systems, but that's actually not the case. The case is that a lot of times some AI models can be implemented in the existing software, the existing workflow. But this requires a little bit of literacy, just kind of understanding what are the pros and cons of different AI methods, and really how can we problem solve together? And of course, you mentioned talent, Francis. I do think that talent is a really important element. In many ways, this is of great strategic national importance for our country because we are, kind of in a race for incredible access and integration of AI. So definitely having folks who understand AI not only from the good old computer science element of it, but from just understanding how to use it in product management, project management, the responsible AI component of it, and also being able to speak and being able to integrate it into a cyber workflow, I think is also very, very paramount.
Catherine, it's great to have you on the program. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Francis.
You can find a link to the primer that Catherine told you about on today's show page at fedgovtoday.com. Up next, the AI use case campaign at the VA. Fed Gov Today with Francis Rose continues in a moment.
What's happening is the malicious use of AI is accelerating the time to attack. And so from that perspective, I think what's new or what's emergent here is simply a threat coming at us faster. And as such, we have to be ready faster. The whole idea of, hey, I've got maybe 30 days to fix or patch my systems is disappearing quickly. And so I think the top concern we have is how do we fight back quickly? How do we make sure that we can respond to the things that are coming at us faster than we ever have?
Mm-hmm. Welcome back. The Department of Veterans Affairs is taking a use case approach to AI projects across the agency. Both the Veterans Benefits Administration and the Veterans Health Administration have long lists of use cases they're pursuing. Charles Worthington is the Chief Technology Officer and Chief AI Officer at VA. Charles, welcome. It's great to have you back on the program. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Francis.
The use case approach that you're taking, how do you go through those and apply and match use cases to the technologies themselves, Charles?
Yeah, I think the way that we are approaching artificial intelligence is kind of the same way we approach every technology shift at the VA, which is starting with the problems we're trying to solve and then figuring out what technology makes the most sense. And so our use case inventory is a way of collecting all of the different ways that the big parts of VA are expecting to use this technology to solve their problems and make sure we have a good handle on what those use cases are and how we can support them from a leadership level.
A lot of agencies and a lot of vendors that sell into the government space are talking about low-hanging fruit on AI. You told me before we went on the air, you have more than 200 use cases in progress in various stages at VA. It sounds like I imagine you think you're beyond kind of the low-hanging fruit aspect of AI.
Yeah, I'm really proud of the VA. I think we are leaning into this technology in a way that is exciting to see. I think artificial intelligence represents a generational shift in what computers are going to be capable of. For my entire career, computing has really been all about storing and retrieving information in more and more efficient ways. And this is the first time where that paradigm is kind of shifting. AI is more about predicting, instead of looking up the answer by getting it out of a database, it's about predicting or inferring what the answer is based on a model. And that is a new paradigm that I think has the opportunity to really increase what computers will be capable of and what sorts of problems they can help us solve. We're seeing that all across the VA, and we have a very important mission both in the healthcare space and the benefits side. But this paradigm is helping VA become more effective in both of those areas.
Who are your most important partners across the agency in both analyzing and deploying, executing on these use cases and on the tests that you're doing to run them?
It's a great question. Obviously, from my role in the technology office, we're supporting those folks in the agency that are delivering the direct care to veterans. By far, the biggest number of our use cases come from our health administration, and we're seeing use cases really run the gamut of all different types of medical care, but some of the most promising things are in image recognition or imaging, image processing, things that are helping our oncologists and other experts be more effective at detecting cancers on scans, for example. We're also seeing a lot of potential for this technology to really reduce the amount of burden that our staff have to go through. There's a lot of sort of tedium and toil that anyone that's done sort of a knowledge work type job is familiar with. If we can offload some of those tasks to an assistant that is really skilled at completing those and preparing documents for an expert to review, we're finding the potential for a lot of time savings.
Given the size and the depth of the care that VA provides in VHA, do you have an opportunity to extend those partnerships to private sector healthcare provision organizations to learn what they're doing with AI, to show them what you're doing, and try to drive collaboration in that way?
Yeah, absolutely. VA is already participating in a lot of sort of cross healthcare sector bodies that are looking at this exact question. I think that the healthcare industry in a lot of ways is actually really well positioned to take advantage of artificial intelligence, because there's already a lot of a culture of experimentation, but also a rigor of scientific method, basically writing down the experiments, the hypotheses, and then publishing the results in peer-reviewed journals. That's exactly the sort of rigor we need to make sure that these AI use cases are effective. And I think in a healthcare setting, we have that apparatus already that they're used to testing new practices and seeing if they're effective. And so that's been a great partnership.
One of the concepts that people in the government space have talked about for a long time is the concept of shadow IT, where people go out and try their own, grow their own at locations all around the country and at all levels of an organization. I'm starting to hear the term shadow AI start to creep in as people become more aware that they can use these tools on their own, and they're relatively easy to find online. Is that something that you're thinking about or something that you're concerned about at VA? How do you wrap your arms around that possibility, at least?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. It's certainly something for people like me to worry about. I think it won't be long before models are built into almost every piece of software that we buy or use in the world, really. And so this concept of a sort of an AI-specific tool, I think is, that's what exists now, but it's easy to imagine that a couple of years from now, those capabilities are going to be directly built into the software that we use in our day-to-day lives in a more natural way. And I think it's important for VA to make strategic investments so that as we integrate those capabilities into our software, we're doing so in a way that's affordable and also scales really efficiently. So we're trying to make sure that there are really good tools available, that people don't need to go off and find their own tool to do a specific thing, that we've got a great set of core tools that can solve a lot of those use cases.
You can answer this question either conceptually or tactically, however you want. How is artificial intelligence impacting the other technologies that an organization like VA uses and that you cover in your portfolio as CTO?
Well, I think right now we are in the really early stages of this exact problem. I think what you just described is the next decade of work in software. Even if the models that we have today don't improve a single little bit from now, the work to integrate those capabilities deeply into our existing tools, I think is going to be very high value and also very difficult. So we're really in the early stages of integrating them, but we've got a lot of really promising pilots that are showing the potential for this. One example is what we call an ambient AI scribe. It's basically an AI that could be listening to a conversation like we're having now and summarize that conversation in a way that matches the modality. So in our case, that might be a doctor talking to their patient. Well, in today's world, that doctor then has to go write up a whole note of what they discussed, and that takes a lot of time. The AI scribe technologies that we're piloting now are summarizing that encounter so the doctor can more quickly do that work. But integrating that with our existing healthcare software is obviously really important, because we don't want to just throw another tool at this already overworked workforce.
When you look at tools like that, how do you discern and distinguish between off-the-shelf products that will work and something that may not be suited for use in a healthcare environment in a PII environment, or in just generally in a government environment for any number of reasons?
Yeah, I think with all these sorts of technologies, there's a balance between something that does a really good job at a single thing and something that will integrate with your existing portfolio. And we're trying to figure out that right balance now. But most of these things we're looking at, if we're going to bring them into the VA, we need to have a theory of how we're going to integrate it in a seamless way with our existing software, not just have it be a standalone tool.
What kind of feedback are you getting from people in the healthcare centers and in the mission delivery people about the tools that you're providing and the pilots that you're doing, the tests that you're running?
Yeah, well, as you mentioned, we've got over 200 use cases already out there, and so we're getting a lot of enthusiasm. Just to give you one example, we're currently running a pilot to give VA employees access to a generative AI chat interface, similar to what you might have used on the internet, like ChatGPT. We have 1,500 VA employees in that pilot, and over 70% of them have reported strong or very strong gains in their productivity. So that's a pretty high score for a technology tool. We're excited with numbers like that, and that's what's making us put the foot on the gas and try to scale them out.
We have about a minute left. Where do you want to be a year from now, 18 months from now? Either number of use cases, advancement of them, how do you expect to scale?
Well, like I said, I think we were in the really early stages of this. If you think of like the very first iPhone compared to where we're at now, that wasn't that many years, but it feels like a lifetime ago. That's where we're at with some of these technologies. I would love us for a year or two from now to really be seeing those core capabilities that are provided by a large foundation model like ChatGPT, to see those integrated into a workflow that's really helping us with our core VA functions in healthcare delivery and benefits processing in a way that helps our staff make decisions more quickly and more effectively.
I hope it's not a year or 18 months till we talk again, Charles, but I look forward to checking in and seeing how you're doing progress-wise. Thanks for joining me today.
Always great to be here.
You can find links to VA's AI strategy and their AI inventory on today's show page at fedgovtoday.com. FedGov Today continues in a moment.
The first fundamental part of modernization and digitalization is getting the electronic health record up and running. And it's about adoption. And getting that fundamental baseline record there that follows the beneficiary or the patient wherever allows us as partners to the federal government to bounce off of that and create patient centered home of care. They get better outcomes. They have more information about their health. And also importantly is provider efficiencies that are created through this one health record. And so we are very excited to partner across the federal government agency to help them with adoption, to help them with efficiencies.
The new edition of the Fed Gov Today podcast rolls out this coming Wednesday with an update on what's coming to your thrift savings plan account for 2025. You can listen to the Fed Gov Today podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere you get your shows. Fed Gov Today TV returns next Sunday morning at 10:30. I'm Francis Rose. I'll see you then. Thanks for watching and have a great week.